Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far in, let me ask if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor. It really helps to get my channel promoted if you'd hit the like button or leave a comment for me. I really appreciate both of those things. So I also just like to hear what you think. So drop me a comment and let me know things. So I thought I was going to make 3 different rings that involve designs that where you have to do a lot of drilling. So we're going to use the drill and the Dremel with some drill bits a lot today. So before we get started though, I wanted to thank my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 6,400 subscribers, which is awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all of the nice comments, and I also appreciate the financial contributions, like when you buy me a coffee or if you join my Patreon. And speaking of Patreon, I'd like to thank my Patreon members too. They're paying for my premium content over on Patreon, and I've got a growing dynamic community over there that I'm really enjoying having conversations with and exchanging ideas. If you're interested in that, check out the video description because there's links to those things down below. So I really wanted to thank all of you on Patreon for all of your support. I appreciate it more than you know. With that being said, let's get started on these projects. So I thought I'd show you first what I drew up as far as these go. This is my design idea book. These are available in a couple of different variations on my merch store. You should check it out. I like them because, well, also one, because lately I've started drawing everything out, which helps to improve my outcome. But also because it has a little grid on it that helps me to keep things proportional. So here's what I had in mind. I was thinking, I drew up several designs. One is going to be kind of like this, and so I'm going to make it out of 2 pieces of 18 gauge sheet, and I'll have to do some shaping and soldering together. It's mostly going to be a disc, and then this right here with holes punched in it using my drill. And then second, I think I'm going to try and do something kind of industrial looking with some hollow tubes going through the corners and having 2 pieces of flat sheet, probably 18. And then maybe a third one here that has some layers that peel away from it with maybe a little stone on the top. I picked out a little red coral. Let's see where I stuck him. Just a little red coral that I found in my stones, and I think it's 3 millimeters, probably. Yeah, 3 millimeters. I read. I think for this one though, this one's got holes. This one's got holes in the centerpiece here, and I'm playing with ideas as far as the width of these different layers. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with that, but I'll kind of play it by ear as I go. All right, well, let's get started on this one. So in advance, I cut myself a little piece of 18 gauge and transferred this shape over to the masking tape that I covered it with. And so I'm going to cut this out with the saw. So that'll be our first step. And the way I calculated this was I was shooting for like a size 8.5. So I measured the distance around 8.5, subtracted the top here, so I should get it pretty close. I added a little bit extra just to give me a little fudge room. And if we needed to, we could always cut the bottom, I suppose, but try not to put any circles right at the bottom. Let's go cut that out. Okay, welcome to my messy sawing area. After yesterday's blade breaking extravaganza, I think I'm going to use a little bit thicker blade on this one. I went through like 10 or 15 blades yesterday, so let's see how this goes. Alright, so I drew some little circles to drill through, and I'm going to use my little center punch here to make a mark in the center of each of them. Pretty close. Didn't make it very good on that one. Okay, now I need to, with the little ones I can probably drill some of them with my Dremel, and some of them I'll have to use my drill, so for the bigger ones. Now I'm going to move on to my drill with a little bit bigger bits. Alright, I'm going to peel this and see how it looks. So let's see if we can do a little bit of shaping on this thing. I think I'm going to put this side to the inside. So you got to kind of round it around the mandrel that way. I think I'm going to use my bail making pliers. I already started doing this a little bit, but I wanted you to see what I was doing. To kind of like get things moving in the direction I want them to go. Just gives you a little more leverage. So this shape of a ring out of sheet, I know there are templates out there you can probably download. I kind of was eyeballing this and deciding how to do it, so we'll see how close I came out, but I think we'll get it pretty good. Just kind of getting those straight up and down, and then I think I'm going to solder them together, and we'll see how much we have to trim off here and what we can get by with, and how big that turned out, and whether we can adjust that at all. I think we might be able to get a little bit of adjustment out of there. So, all right, so let me get this ready to solder. All right, so solder that side first. If you've never seen my videos, I use hard silver sheet solder primarily, and a spray-on flux called My-T-Flux. I'm not sure if I said or not. I'm going to do one side at a time. Okay. I do a lot of pick soldering, which is one of the things that made me move up as far as my skills. So if you're interested in that, I'll put a link up to my pick soldering video if you want to learn how to do that. I have found it's a really good technique to help me out with placing solder in really precise places. It's hard to sometimes balance a piece of solder. Let's cool that off. solder ball. It's good to have some extras in the pad. I'm going to go over on the Dremel and I'm going to play with the openings here a little bit as far as widening them out with the white abrasive wheel. And then I'll round it out again and we'll see how it looks, and then I'll trim this off and we'll add a top. So, be right back. After some filing and shaping, I've kind of expanded these a little bit as much as I could. I didn't calculate the size terribly well, so I've also tapered it down a little bit more. One thing you could do is you could create a rim that goes upwards straight like this and then mount a surface on it to raise it up higher. I thought about doing that, but I think I'm going to actually just solder down a piece of sheet like this with some holes in it just like on here, and I think that'll be our design for today. So I need to make sure I mark off where the edges are going to be so that I drill kind of in between those lines. Then I can just place some holes of random shapes and sizes, and then we'll trim it off after we solder it on, and then we'll get started on the next one. Alright, so I did some holes on this one. I'm going to put the side that I drilled down into the outside, and just kind of decide which way I'm going to put this. And then I think I can just nudge some pieces of solder up against the outside here, after I flux it of course. And then we'll heat the whole thing until it flows, and we should be able to get that soldered down. And we'll pickle it. So I'm just going to lean a bunch of pieces of solder up against there. It doesn't have to lean, but touch. So the piece that's on top is easy to get hot because it's sitting upright like that. The piece on the bottom is less easy to get hot, so most of the heat should be focused towards the bottom piece in order to get these guys to achieve the same temperature at about the same time. Add just a little bit more over here. And make sure I get a solder seam all the way around. Okay, I'm just going to trim that off with my shears and then file it flush and pickle it. So then we'll get started on the next one. Okay, a couple things I've done. I taped two pieces of 18 gauge silver sheet together. I traced out the size of ring that I wanted on there. And then I drilled 4 little holes that are about the right size for that tubing, although they're a little bit too tight, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of reaming those out in order to get those in there. But I stuck these in here in order to keep it in place so I don't have any shifting when I'm cutting through here. Because sometimes, even if you have it taped together, it'll move a little bit. So I stuck some wires through there to hold it in place. So let's go saw this. Alright, so let's cut this out. Okay, I think I'm going to take my Dremel and smooth this out a little bit so it's a little more round. and then we'll add those tubes and solder it all together. So you can see I reamed those out a little bit with a diamond bit. There's probably a lot of ways I can solder these. Thinking I might do the initial ones kind of like that, maybe. And then what if I found something that was just the right height to keep them apart? Something like that to prevent them from sticking down, that I could just kind of space it out with. Well, some 10 gauge square wire would be best, probably. See if I can find a piece of that. That should keep it a pretty consistent distance apart, I think. And I should be able to just pick solder on both spots on either side. So let's do that real quick, and then we can throw this one in the pickle and start on the third one. Now I'm just going to take my saw and saw these most of the way off and file them down a little bit. And then I'll clean it up and round the corners and pickle it. And we'll do the next one. So for the third one, I made a little bezel for this coral. And I used some 3/16 inch 28 gauge fine silver bezel strip. I cut it in half or so, so it's a little bit not quite as tall. And we'll use that for the stone that's going to go right here. This piece is, it looks like 3 pieces, but I think if I do 3 pieces of 18, which I think it needs to be in order for these to be thick enough to not be flimsy, I think I'm going to do 2 together and then file another piece that goes between those at a taper so that it kind of merges out of there. But the overall band here is about as thick as 2 pieces of 18 gauge. If I get 3, it's going to be really thick. So I think we'll jam one in here. And my thought is, rather than doing the circles, the holes that I'm going to drill on this one, I'm going to do them all the way around the outside so they end up looking like a part-way drilled through hole that just adds some kind of texture to the outside. So one of these two, I cut 2 of these here, about pretty wide here, so I think they were 9 millimeters-ish. And so I think one of these I'm going to go ahead and punch some holes through with the drill, just some randomly placed holes. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, I hope you can see what I've done here. I've got the holes in this one and I kind of curved it upwards a little bit. This one I only curved so that it would stand upright on its side because I'm going to solder these 2 together. I'm going to do it a little bit offset because I want a little bit more sticking out for this one here. That's going to go right in there, but I have to file it a bit. Probably cut it a little narrower. It doesn't need to be that wide. Getting to be quite a bit of metal here, so it's taking a while to heat it up. This is probably not one you could do with a small butane tool. Alright, I'm going to cool that off and take a peek at it and see how it looks. Okay, so I've kind of shaped it. And I may cut this shorter, I don't know. I could just make a big ring, but it's a pretty good sized ring. So the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to mount a little bezel here. This is that bezel I made for that little piece of red coral. And I'm just going to mount it right there. So this guy kind of sitting up. Okay, so I'm going to let that pickle, and then I'm going to clean everything up, and I'll show you the final result on all three. Alright, so the first one. That's better. Kind of a cool look to it. Kind of a polka dot ring, I guess. Like I said, it came out pretty small, so if I was going to make another one, I'd probably increase the length of it a little bit. I didn't calculate quite right on that one. This one I'm super pleased with. This one came out really fun. And it worked out just like I was thinking it would. So rarely does that happen. So that one turned out pretty good. This one, not bad. You know, I had to make some modifications as we went. One thing I noticed is because we stretched this so far on the outside when we're bending it, it actually kind of made these holes a little bit on the oval side, which is kind of an interesting effect. But you know, it's hard to polish in some spots on these sorts of rings. But overall, I'm pleased with it. You know. This one came out kind of big. I must have been overestimating on this one. But I could probably just cut it off and bend it a little bit in and make it a different size. So a lot of size adjustment options here. So I'm going to go ahead and you know, get these all buffed up nice, take some pictures of them, and I'll put them at the end of the video. Okay, well that was the 3 different drill project rings. I hope you enjoyed those. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. I really appreciate that. And leave a comment. I'd like to know what you think, what you'd like to see, constructive criticism. All those things are great. And don't forget to check out the video description down below for links like my Patreon, my merch site where you can get that great idea book, or a coffee mug, or a t-shirt, or whatever. That all supports my channel and helps me to buy supplies and things like that. So don't forget to check out the website, as well as the Buy Me a Coffee link if you just want to make a small contribution. Thank you for that. You guys are awesome. Thanks a lot. Take care. Happy silversmithing.